Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Cool Down Room. We are your hosts.
I'm Maria.
I'm Vicki.
And I'm Emmy.
And this week is all about the Chinese Grand Prix, which is the first Chinese Grand Prix to happen since 2019, which was the 1,000th Formula One race. And now we're on 1,106. So it's been a hot minute since that race. But our favorite topic for home races is, and Maria's super excited already, helmets. So do you want to take us out, Maria?
Oh my gosh, yes I do. Okay, so we'll start with Zhou, since he's the star of the weekend. He had
hometown hero.
I know. He had the underground train stations and landmarks. I loved his helmet so much. Like, super simple, but really clean cut and nice.
It looked very cool on the cameras as well. Just seeing like those like very vibrant colors, it showed up very, very well.
I didn't realize until the race that the dots on the helmet were also like holographic, or like glittery.
Oh,
so that
I didn't know that.
Nice.
Yeah,
I loved it. And then Alex had his panda. That
thing
hilarious.
was a jump scare.
Yeah, that's so disturbing. Like,
yeah,
I couldn't take him seriously.
No, it was just the panda.
Every time they showed the onboard was like, it's looking straight at me. Like, I don't like it.
I took a picture of it because I was like, this is good. This is gold.
It was. I wasn't a fan of it just because I don't like stuff like that. Like, that's too like almost uncanny valley for me. And then just seeing it like all, and everyone just kept focusing on it because, you know, panda. And it was just throwing me off every time. It was a cool helmet, but like not the one for me.
I loved his post about it because he went to the zoo. And so every single picture was like him pointing at the panda with his panda helmet.
And it was Lily, right? Wearing the helmet. Yeah.
Yeah. She's so cute. And then George and Valtteri both had similar helmets. Like, they both went with the dragon theme, but George, he had the more structured, very meaningful helmet. Made a huge post on Instagram. But then Valtteri just had like a plain one. I liked Valtteri's better because it was one of those helmets where if you looked at it in one direction with the sunlight a certain way, you could only see part of it. And then whenever he turned his head, you could see more of it. And it was so cool. It was like iridescent.
I thought it was cool that Valtteri, I think he posted that on Instagram, that his girlfriend designed it. I don't know to what extent, but he mentioned that. And I think it looked pretty cool on the onboard because the contrast of his like bright orange helmet with the green and black car, I thought it was like, I don't know, I think it looked really cool. And I like George. I just was like, because I feel like when someone has a special helmet, I feel like it's for a reason because they have a special connection with that place. But I don't know if it's that I have no idea, or I don't know why he decided to have a special helmet for China, but I liked it. Just, I was like, okay, was it just like for no special reason?
Well, he said he wanted to celebrate being back in Shanghai, and then went into like a explanation of like everything that was on it and all that kind of stuff. So it was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like, it wasn't just let's do a helmet because of blah blah. It was a bit more, which was nice.
It was very in-depth reasoning for his choices on everything. Very symbolistic.
Yes. When I was reading it, I was like, this sounds like when you're like assigned a presentation in school and you're making sure that you're hitting like all of like the rubric points. It's like, this is what this means and this is what this means. And the way that he wrote it out made me giggle.
It's George being George.
Literally.
Facts.
So, free practice.
The one and only free practice we had.
Yeah. It was fire. How does that even happen? Because it was in the same spot both times, right?
Yeah. Free practice and then sprint qualifying had the fire in the same spot. And it was a pretty big fire for the area. Like, it spread very quickly, before it was contained. But that was something to kind of spice it up, which practice
It was
itself,
so
like,
random.
there's a lot of stuff going on anyway. And then with it being the sprint, first time back in a while, the fire having at least it wasn't red flagged for that long, which was good, and it was able to get contained. But yeah, the track just setting on fire was not something that I had on my bingo board, that's for sure.
Six and say it's very bingo card-esque, and I wish I had that. Because I still haven't.
Now we can have it for next year.
But will it happen again?
I mean, it happened twice, which I was not expecting the second time.
Wasn't expecting the first, but it didn't happen again. Yeah, and then it didn't happen again after that, so
Yeah.
they took care of it enough.
I think it was funny how everyone was confused. Like, not only, like, us watching, but, like, even drivers were like, there's, like, grass is on fire. And, like, even the commentators were like, wait, what? What's going on? So I don't think at any point they said, like, the reason why. I guess it was just out of nowhere, but it's just, I don't know. I think it was funny how random it was during the practice that suddenly they moved, like, shot to grass on fire. Was like, but
Well, because for us, it was here in the US, it was middle of the night. And I was texting people, like my family over back in the UK. And my cousin was like, oh, so like, how was it? I was like, oh yeah, like the track was on fire. And he's like, haha. And I was like, no, like legitimately the track was on fire. And then sent him a picture of like a screenshot that I took of the grass being on fire. And he's like, what? And then when it happened again in the qualifying, he was like, oh, it happened again.
It just had to solidify you saying it was on fire.
Yeah.
I think people were worried that it was going to happen during like one of the longer sessions, like one of the two races or something. But I mean, I guess they managed to, I don't know, find a solution for it, because
I think they said they just they watered it, like they put like a ton of water down and moistened the grass. Yeah. But speaking of free practice, did anyone else expect Lance Stroll to top the timing in FP1?
No.
Because I did not expect
to be
that.
fair, I don't think anyone, like, no one's ever expecting that. But it's interesting. It's the kind of things that make me like practice, because it's so random, like the results we can get from it. But I know it's the typical, like, it's just practice, but still.
Yeah, because you don't know what the teams are testing out and what they're trying. So especially if there are multiple practices, but on a one practice, it's not going to be like similar to race conditions. I think the timing of day is different. That makes a huge factor. So that's why they say FP2 is normally like the best one for the longer race runs, because it's going to be the most similar to the actual race. But yeah, it was also Danny Rick at V-Carb had a new chassis, and he finished ahead of Vicki as well for practice. So, and a couple other things, but we'll get there.
He was happy about that.
Yeah, because it just proved that it's not him. There was something with the car. So
I feel like so many
felt
people
good.
are dragging on him. I'm like, no, it's the car, I promise.
Justice for Danny Rick.
I love how
Boogie Bear and Danny.
yes. Yeah, I was going to mention, like, you say a new chassis, something that Williams can only dream about.
Justice for Boogie Bear.
For real.
You gotta get that this weekend, though.
No, they're getting one next for Miami, right? They're getting a new chassis, I think.
That I don't know, but Logan was just very unlucky this weekend.
Yeah. Quali, though. Carlos
Sprint
going into the
quali.
gravel?
Sprint quali. There it is.
Sprint quali. Carlos, gravel? Was that sprint quali?
I do remember that.
That was regular quali then. Because
Yeah, that was
he
regular
finished
quali.
P7.
Sprint quali was so normal until
It was.
SQ3, where it was raining. And then, yeah, chaos. Because they're also, with the sprint, they have the shortened qualifying sessions. So, shorter session, 1 hour of practice. You really have very limited opportunities to make your mark. And especially with the rain, you got to go out and at least set something Danny made it into Q2, but Zhou and Valtteri both made it into SQ3, and I was like really rooting for Zhou because, you know, first home race, first Chinese driver, and like he made it into SQ3. I'm like, you guys are doing great because they were looking really good at the beginning of the weekend. That was something good to see.
Lando got pole for...
Did he?
Yeah, he did. He didn't keep it.
Yeah. He tried, okay.
There was a guy that they showed. Well, I saw a picture. I'm not sure if they saw it like on TV, but this guy that had a sign that say like pictures of like screenshots of like stakes times for pit stop when they're like super high numbers, like 9 point something seconds, and he had like 2, and then he has like rec like mark like no, and then on the other side of the sign, like one side were like pit stop times were like 2.1, 1.8, and then yes, and then like do this. Like he was trying, like it was so funny.
That's great.
I wish I would have seen that.
But other than that, other than Lando being, because I don't remember the starting grid for the sprint race. I know it was Lando on pole.
Lando Lewis second, and then Fernando third,
Yeah.
Max fourth. That was partly due to the rain, Max not being able to set the lap that he wanted, but also proved that, you know, Lando knows what he's doing.
I was happy. I was not sad at all because I loved seeing Fernando P3. So, and Lando, like I really thought it was his chance at winning, even if it's a sprint race. But I was really excited for him. But
Really sad.
Let's talk about how sad that was that he just did not get that car like going. He had a terrible start.
If I was a driver, hear me out.
You are a driver.
boy.
You're so good at.
you're so good at Mario Kart.
F1 driver. Thank you. Thank you. I would have slowed down and I would have let Lewis just go and then just waited until like a DRS section and just whoop right back around him. But that's just me, you know, my professional recommendation. Opinion.
Professional.
She's doing a professional recommendation to an F1 driver. I love this.
Put me in the car, coach. I'm ready. Yeah, and then he got P7 from there, got back in, and just broke the hearts of so many McLaren fans. But I'm happy for him. He didn't wreck. Like, his car was good. He crossed the line. And he wasn't super bent up about it in the interviews either.
No, I think... Where did he finish? Because I don't remember. I know it was Checo, P3? P2?
I think he finished... Hold on, I gotta look. Unless Vicki has it pulled up right away. And this is where...
6. Sorry, I couldn't get myself unmuted.
Like, who was top 3? Because I know it was Max, Checo, but I don't know
Max
where
Lewis,
Checo
Checo.
was.
Max Lewis, and then Checo. And then Charles. And then Carlos, then Lando, then Oscar.
Wait, are we talking about the sprint?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh. I thought it was Max, Lewis, Checo.
That's what we said.
That's what she just said.
Girl.
Rude. Third time today that she doesn't listen.
So I was like, huh? I don't know what's been up with my brain, but I've been doing that so much this weekend.
You know, you just made that sound, and I'm gonna add the clip of the cat that's like, huh?
I mean, you can.
Oh, I will.
I'm not stopping you.
And that's...
Find me.
I'm gonna say that I was sad after the sprint race because of Fernando. He DNF'd. I mean,
Right.
I had a high, like my expectations were high up there because he started P3, but he DNF'd and then he got a penalty of 10 seconds that I don't know what he was supposed to do with 10 seconds after he literally DNF'd, but And then he got two penalty points.
Yes. I can double check, but I'm almost positive it was 2.
For causing a collision, I believe it was. I don't
Yeah.
know exactly And I know Aston Martin wanted to get that reversed, but they did not get it. So
Fernando, him and it was Carlos, right? They touched wheels. I would have been so pissed if that were me and it was the last lap because he was doing so good.
It was the second to last lap. Thank you very much. It was 17 of 19.
wow.
Should I just leave?
I guess.
This is how my brother feels about me correcting him.
I just want to know, I don't remember seeing Vicky switching dogs. So I'm like, wait a second.
Oh, wait. I didn't either. When did you get that dog?
A couple minutes ago.
I was like, wait, am I going crazy?
Went from no dogs to 2 dogs. So, dog counter.
And wasn't the sprint race the one where Carlos and Charles had a little misunderstanding, for saying it that way?
2 best friends that anyone could have that want to drive super close to each other all the time.
They want a handhold.
They were wearing their get along shirt.
Can you imagine if you were just holding hands with the driver next to you?
Because their hands barely go up, like, at all.
They're like,
whenever they're strapped, they're like this. They just... It's like what's that one place in Italy where they touch the fingers? That painting on the ceiling?
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I don't know the name in English, though.
Yeah, Vicki, give it the program. This one.
Stop, I'm gonna have to put a post-it on you now.
I just won't look at you. It's fine. So now we're gonna go to quali and the race.
mm-hmm.
What do y'all have for quali? Because this is when Carlos actually wanted the grapple.
Louis P18. Not expecting that.
Yeah. Especially after the P2 from before. Yeah. I think he said they changed. He wasn't happy with the setup from the sprint. So they changed it and it went the wrong way. To put it lightly.
I did see a meme. I don't know if you guys saw it. Toto. You know that picture of Toto where he's going like inside the car to like tell someone to, and he's like, I told you P1, not Q1. But like I love that picture. It's so funny.
Like, what was he even saying to him? Like, what was the reason for getting that close? That was.
I don't think it was ever like. I don't think we know the context. I just know it's like an onboard and he would try to tell someone, but it just, I guess it was loud. I don't know.
Just went like that.
It just went like right inside. It's just, and if you watch the video, it's even funnier than the picture. Because
I think he was trying to tell him about his car's extended warranty.
Now, what else happened? Because I feel like that's for me the most, like what I remember, Louis B18.
Well, okay, no, because I went up to visit Emmy this weekend and watch the race and stuff with her, and I showed up we showed up for the sprint race, and then we watched qualifying, and then in Q3, it kept rotating P2 right at the very end. It was like Fernando, and then Charles, and then Carlos, and then whoever, like this just cycle, like this nonstop cycle of like replacing P2, and it was wild to see. Just seeing the little Sauber up there and like seeing like the version of Valtteri, like, because we know he's a very good driver. He was like always like putting it up there with Lewis when he was in his Mercedes era.
Yeah. And
seeing that part of him again was really cool to see in a car that you don't expect it from. But yeah, the cycle, that P2 cycle, we were like cheering, and then we were like cheering, and we're like, no, and then we were cheering again. And I was like, no, and then we're cheering again. I was like, no, and it's like, okay, it's Checo.
Yeah. I have to say that one thing I love about Valtteri is that he was in a great team. He was in Mercedes. He was winning races, and he switched to a team that's not doing very good at the moment. And I never hear him complain, at least over the radio, because I don't know what happens when he's not like driving, but I feel like he's so chill. And he's just like enjoying and vibing. Like he's has a seat and he's enjoying that. But I don't know. I just really like that because I feel like so many people who may have been in like a really good seat like he was switching to like a team that's not doing as good, they could be, complaining. And I'm not saying this in like a bad way because I understand they have this mentality of like winning races already, but kind of like even though he didn't switch teams, like Lewis, we just hear him complain a lot about the car during like sessions. And I know like even Max does it too, but I don't know. I just like how Valtteri is so chill about like, I don't have the greatest car and I'm good with it. Or at least of what it feels like.
I watched I listened to a podcast where it was him and Show, and they were talking about what it's like to be on that team. And Valtteri was saying how it's really nice because there's not a lot of pressure on them since they're not battling for like just a place on the podium or even just points, really. Like they can just go out there, enjoy it, but also like try to get to the points. But it's not, hey, you're Mercedes, you have to be in the points, and it's going to be very disappointing if you're not situation. He seems very relaxed, and I love that for him.
Yeah, because that's the thing that all the discourse around Checo is that he's that second Red Bull. Why is he not always P2, or like why is he not battling Max for those race wins, for those pole positions? And yeah, that extra because Valtteri had that expectation on him at Mercedes as well. Like Lewis is going to be first, and you have to be right there with him. So yeah, it's the discourse is easy because we're surprised and we're happy when they do make it, like Valtteri make it into Q3. But if Checo or someone doesn't make it, we're like, well, why not? Like, you're in a Mercedes, you're in a Ferrari, you're in a Red Bull. Like, why? Like, look, yeah, Lewis being P18, like that expectation is on them,
which is understandable. I feel like it's okay to expect that, knowing that they have the car to do good. But sometimes I put myself in the like bad position, and I'm pretty sure it's not easy on someone's mental health to like, you're not performing like how you're expected to. Plus, you have everyone telling you like you need to do better. I feel like, especially with Red Bull, they have people from Red Bull going around. Not saying that they go around all the time, but like there are rumors like, oh, someone say like, oh, they need to do better because if not, then we'll look for a replacement. Because I feel like even though it's true that they need to do better, I feel like we should take more into consideration drivers' feelings for that kind of things and not be as harsh on them. Because I feel like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they don't even care because they know what they're doing. But I feel like it puts them in a really difficult position.
I was listening to the post race for the China race, and they were actually talking about Max and Checo and how you're expecting Checo to be up there, to be right next to Max because they're in the same exact car. But then they also brought up the point, like, what if Checo is the standard of the car, but Max is just in a whole other league, which is why he's able to surpass and Checo can't keep up. But Checo's a standard. I'm like, oh, you know what? That's a great perspective to have. I didn't even think about it like that. Because I was always thinking about just the driver, but not the car itself.
It's easy to see it as Checo not meeting expectations instead of Max exceeding those expectations. So,
but I feel like it also comes a little from last year. Because, like, I feel like this year he's been doing great. I mean, he's been getting P2, like, out of 5 races, 4 maybe. But I feel like a lot of those comments come from last year's season that he was not even getting, like, passing, like, Q3, I think. So, I feel like that's more understandable because it's like, I'm not expecting you to be leading the race by 30 seconds like Max or, but the fact that you can even make it to like P3 or even Q2, that's for me kind of like, okay, what's going on? Because is it the car? Is it you have an issue? Like, I know at the very end he did got better. Like he started to like show more of like what we usually see. But yeah, I still like feel like he got a lot of hate, and that's not easy. I'm pretty sure it's not easy for them.
he started really well though. That was the big issue because he was winning races with Max. He was right up there with Max. I think it was Miami last year. Actually, it was kind of when his performance started to take that dip. So we'll see if that happens again this year. But yeah, it was just kind of like that lack of consistency from, oh, you are doing amazing up there to, why is Max doing so much better than you as well as everyone? To, okay, end of the season now. You've kind of found your rhythm and found your groove again. So,
which is what kind of
is like, because the cars, they're supposed to be geared towards one direction, but we low-key know that it's more geared towards Max. So I wonder if it's that style setup that he's having those difficulties with last season, but compared to this season, I wonder if they have the cars more separated in terms of driving style.
I think he said something about that last year, about how, because everyone's driving styles are so different. So I think he had said about having a different style to Max. So he has to work harder to make the car work with him, where like for Max, it's almost like a part of him. Checo has to control it more.
Him not doing great last year, it's also what helped Max win the title earlier, because he's like the difference of points between him and Checo, who was P2 in the championship. At some point, it was so big that it was like, I think the last race, the one where he won his title, he had to get like 1 point, something like that. It was like such like just finish whatever position like within P10 and you're winning. But yeah, I don't know. I do know that they did mention so many times that the car is more developed for Max, but at the same time, is it that bad? Like, I don't know. I don't know how different it can be, but
because at the end of the day, like, it's a constructors championship. You want to win, so you can't spend the time and the money having it go both ways and being okay for both. Like, you have to put your best foot forward.
And if you think about it, these people, when they're not racing, it's not like they're not doing anything. I'm pretty sure they're trying to find a solution of like, hey, what's going on? Why are you not, meeting the expectations? But like, he kept DNFing. I think he DNF'd like how many times last season. So it's like, I'm sure they were trying to find a solution, but that's when it's like, that's what's for me a little, not confusing, but like, it makes me like wonder like what could be the reason why he, performance went from like up here to like really bad.
Before we move along to the race, I would just like to say that I think I mentioned right at the beginning how this was Red Bull's 100th pole. Mm-hmm. And their first pole was also in Shanghai 15 years ago, gotten by Sebastian Vettel, who also won Red Bull's first race that weekend. But the qualifying trio was Seb, Mark, and Fernando. And then this qualifying trio was Max, Checo, Fernando. So, Fernando's been a really big part of Red Bull history, okay? He's been there for all of it. But, yeah, I just needed to, one, pretend that wasn't a Seb slide in that I have to get in all the time. But two, also just like, Fernando's been there for it all.
And we can see that from, when you posting pictures of him being a little kid at the Chinese Grand Prix, cheering on Fernando with his Fernando flag, and now he's driving with him. It's like, that's impressive, like, on both sides of, like, how he's managed to, because, he's, of course, the oldest, but he's not less good. Like, he's just as good as always. So that's, for me, really impressive. Also, fun fact, since the last race in China, like all the other races after that, Max has won 50% of all the races after the last race in China.
Oh my God, the fact that we're in the same timeline as him and watching him.
In the same timeline.
Because imagine if we were like super, super young and then we got into F1 and we're watching like today's grid back then. I'd be like, oh man, I wish that I was older so that I could relate more to them.
This is how I feel about Michael. Like, I do remember him, but...
Yeah. And this is also how I feel about the Seb Red Bull era. I grew up watching Michael, and then, like, I wish I'd been watching, like, Seb and that kind of thing, and watching Red Bull become what it is today. And now, yeah, you're right. We are lucky that we're getting to see this part of history, being F1 history being developed with Max.
But this race, though.
Alonso
jumped up to P2 on turn 1. That was just so good. Also, they were talking about how they don't think that the starting grid boxes, are on the correct sides for that track. For, like, the optimal race line.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. They were talking about it, and I was just like, oh. Because I remember listening to a podcast where they were talking about how they set up... Why are you smiling like that?
Like what? Sorry for smiling and being excited that you're talking. I'll be sure not to show any form of emotion in the future.
Just... I can't even not smile, right? But they were talking about how it was in the Formula Explains or something like that.
Mm-hmm. I made a blank face and then I smiled and agreed with you. I'm sorry.
Turn your camera off.
I'm sorry, it just throws me off. I put sticky notes on both of you.
Hold on, I'll fix this for you. Better?
No, come back.
For audio only listeners, I turned my camera off so Maria didn't have to look at me and be distracted.
Hey, actually, now that I remember one thing I wanted to mention because I know at least some of my friends do only listen on audio. If you guys have the time, go and check the videos, because sometimes I add some memes. I think it makes the experience better. Sometimes I mean, the best part is that sometimes I make fun of all of us with those edits. So yeah, just wanted to mention that.
I literally watch the videos of our podcast just to see what the edits are. It's a goal. A goal every single time.
I gotta know what Emmy has done to me. Because a lot of the time it's me.
But you just make it so easy.
I do, and I don't mean to.
I'm just happy I make it a little difficult.
Okay. Back to the race and stop talking about yourself, a little bit self-centered.
Oh, something that was funny was Lewis continuously complaining on the radio. I know it's not funny for him, but for us listening, I thought it was hilarious.
The radios this weekend have been a bit of a trip.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
Every time Lewis complains, I just think of that radio. I think it's from last year when Toto say, like, Lewis, we know the car is bad. Please drive it. Just think of that every time.
So, Stroll doing more than just a love tap.
Vicky's face.
Scooping Daniel up like he's at a in-person location and scooping up some gelato. Like, oh, man.
That was insane.
Let's review the incident. So Bottas DNF'd because his engine failed, and took too long for a safety car to come out to be registered that they needed a safety car. Like, Mans was already out of that car and just chilling out on the gravel before they called a virtual safety car, which that's a whole other issue in itself. And then they're going around. Was it it was around the hairpin, right? Mm-hmm. And somewhere was it? And then Alonso locked up a little bit, and everyone's following behind. But Mr. Lance Stroll decided to look at the apex and not at what was going on in front of him, and just, boom, scooped the back of Danny's car up, causing Danny to also hit into Oscar, causing Oscar floor damage we'll get there. Yeah, that was something. And then turns out that apparently Lance was blaming Danny for that. And I've never really seen angry Danny before until those post-race interviews. And his responses, you can tell that, you can just see it all over his face. You can hear it in his voice, how he was very upset with how Lance had handled his side of it. And he'd even said, like, I watched Lance's onboard to kind of see what was going on, and you can tell he wasn't even looking at what was going on in front of him. And at one point, you can't, when there's a safety car, you can't anticipate when that leader is going to go, because you can only pass people once you pass a certain spot as well. So that's not really doing much for you. You got to look at where you're going so that you don't hit someone. Because back in the day, another Seb counter, that's how Seb drove into the back of Mark and ruined one of Mark's races, because during the safety car, he didn't pay full attention and hit him. So, and took them both out. And you just have to pay attention to what's going on directly in front of you. It is a safety car. That's like the one time you're not supposed to do anything. But, end rant.
The Bottas accident, well, the moments they showed the marshals moving the cars, I don't know why I thought that was so funny, because they were like 9 people pushing that car so hard, it was not moving. Yeah, and then they show them like just around it, and like couple like minutes later they're just like pushing it so hard, and it's like, what's going on? Like, that was so
It
funny.
reminded me, you know, when you would like drop a piece of food outside and all the ants would swarm it and like try and move it, but the piece of food was too big. That's what it kind of reminded me of. Like all these marshals swarming this car to try and move it, and like they couldn't do it. And yeah, that's what it reminded me of.
We went 2 different directions, Vicki. Whenever I saw it, I thought of the people like old times, like pirate ships. Whenever they're rowing, they're like, heave. It just keep doing it. But like more along the lines of the Pirates of the Caribbean with like the dumb ones. And they're just like going in a circle.
Wow.
They're not dumb though. Just putting that out there.
But so Lance got a 10-second time penalty and 2 penalty points for that. Fernando got 2 penalty points, I think, and then a 10-second penalty for what? A barely a love tap in the sprint. Like, I know they don't base their rulings based off of like what happens, like the extent of the outcome of that incident, but I don't know how I feel about it. It's just interesting to see that they are both valued equally in that sense, I guess, because like we know that they were 2 different types of incidents.
I didn't even think that Danny, well, this is going back to the Lance and Danny, that Danny had hit Oscar.
Yeah, you can see it in the camera. He like when he lifts up, he like the front of him like bumps into the back of Oscar.
See, I didn't see that. I probably was dozed off for a second when that happened.
Well, it's okay. I woke up this morning to the news of Danny's penalty from a different incident, and then all my social media was just angry Danny, and then this like the incident from like different views of like people that were at the race who posted it, like different coverage types and stuff like that. So it was sad morning for me to wake up to. Justice for Danny Rick.
I didn't notice that he crashed into Oscar, but I was a little confused later on the race. I think it was towards the end that over the radio, they told Oscar he had damage, like extensive damage. And I was like, huh? Like, when did that even happen? Like, I was so confused, but then, yeah.
That was me.
Yeah, when I saw that later, I was reviewing everything, and I was like, wait, when did that happen? And I was like, oh, it was at that moment, but he didn't, like, it wasn't really noted until later just how extensive that was. And it also just proves how, like, sensitive these cars are, that the smallest thing can do so much. But was it sprint qualifying where Carlos, like, spun out, like, tapped the barrier and his car was completely fine? And, like, how it's just really just regular qualifying? Whatever one it was, like, how he spun out like that and, like, tapped it, and then his car was fine. Just put a new nose on and it's okay. But then, like, in relation to like how Lance hit Danny and how did Danny hit Oscar, like that was a much smaller impact and it just did so much more damage to him.
Since we're still talking about Rex, we can talk about Kevin and Yuki.
Did Kevin forget how to turn?
Yeah, they got a little too close. I was so sad for Yuki, but only because he was in my fantasy team.
Who was Kevin fighting for P16? He was fighting Albon? No, not Albon.
I want to say it was one of the Williams because I remember it being a sandwich. Right?
Was it Logan? No, it was just Kevin and someone. I think I have it here. 1 second.
Speaking of sandwiches, who was it? They said they were in an Alpine sandwich or like an Alpine baguette in the.
Yes.
Was it the post-race show?
Yeah.
And I don't remember who said it because I was at that point. I was just like, I had it on to like help lull me to sleep. Yeah.
Oh, it was actually Magnussen and Stroll fighting for P16. But it was like, I don't know, Vicky, if you were watching during that, they were going at it as if like they were fighting for P1. Like it was just hilarious because it was really good, but it was just for P16. And so
they weren't even in the points.
No. But it was like it was a really good like little fight. Like Kevin was defending really good, but I've seen so many memes of it because it's like the fight of the season for P16.
Which Kevin didn't even get a penalty, or did he? He got a 10-second.
What's Kevin's number?
20.
He's 20, right?
20.
There's nothing in here. 10, 27, 3, 18. Oh, wait. Infringement, car 20, causing. So, there were so many things. I'm sorry. I'm on the FIA website. There's so many things.
No, there were tons of penalties. It was a weird race because it was like a lot going on, but at the same time, like most of the race was like, okay.
Yeah.
10-second penalty, 2 penalty points, colliding with car 22. Car 20 dived into the corner, braked late, and collided with car 22 at the exit of the corner. We found that car 20 was predominantly to blame for the collision.
I feel like the race was not very problematic up until the end. And then everything just kind of exploded.
Yeah. Speaking of exploding, actually, I don't know. This isn't even speaking of exploding. I just wanted to segue, and that was a terrible segue. The Alpine mechanic and the wheel.
Yeah.
That was something because it wasn't on, and then Pierre started to drive away, and it like came off and hit the mechanic, and then but that was had not been properly fitted. And the electronic systems that monitor if a tire was fitted properly did not pick it up that it was not. And then in addition to that, a team member incorrectly clicked the button to release the car, despite the tire not being fitted properly. He fell backwards and was lightly injured. But then you could hear Pierre on the radio later being like, is he okay?
Yeah.
So.
He got lucky. Both the mechanic, but also Pierre, because he stopped right there, so they could put the tire on, but yeah.
They were fined 10,000 euros for that. Which...
Is it straight to that mechanic to pay for his bills if he has to visit the walk-in?
Okay, but...
Actually, they probably wouldn't have to pay for anything because they're in Europe.
I think they probably have really good insurance even if, but... Now, I know this is like jumping, like just pit stop, but Red Bull has the fastest pit stop of the season so far with 1.9 of the season, Maria.
Wait, was that this race?
Yesterday? Yeah, 1.9
for Checo, right? Because they double stopped Max and Checo.
Yeah.
I think Max got 2, like a 2.0, and then Checo got a 1.9.
Yeah.
I thought it was 2.1 and 2.0.
No, it was 1.9.
Oh, maybe my brain was just making that up then.
You didn't want it to be anywhere close to your McLaren fastest pit stop ever.
I think I even told Vicki when that happened, like, ooh, Maria's not gonna be happy that we're getting close.
Well, I was like, oh, Red Bull's double stacking, and then I was like, okay, Max is a 2, and I was like, Checo 1.9. It's like, how did they double stack and do even better? But they're not Ferrari, so that's why.
Max was the warm up for Checo's pit stop.
Well, because right before that, we had been watching like random videos and stuff all afternoon as we were making bracelets. And we watched the Red Bull pit stop in the dark. And I was like, all right, they did that pit stop in the dark faster than a lot of people do pit stops.
2 point something, 2.3?
Yeah, 2.8, I think.
Yeah, something in the 2s.
2 point something. And it was wild.
Like that many times in that video.
They have 10 opportunities to do it.
Tries, yeah.
And they did better than Ferrari on a clear, normal day.
But speaking of pit stops, Joe had a 3-second pit stop.
Yes.
Like, that was so good for them. I remember I went down and I'm like, Emmy, they had a good pit stop. He had a good pit stop at home.
Yeah.
So I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah. I was hoping they did something good for him. And I think he even mentioned, like, there was a lot of pressure on him because, like, him being in F1 and he was happy that everything went great this weekend. Because I feel like, of course, they didn't... I don't know, what did he finish on? Like, he didn't finish on points, right? None of them?
Joe? No.
But they did really good, like, overall.
He got
Yeah.
14 or 15.
14. 14. Yeah, Lance was 15.
But I think they did really good.
But
And
they gave him a spot on the main street.
that's what I was going to say.
Sorry,
That was
Abby.
just adorable. No, it's fun. That was just so adorable.
His reaction, like, I know I was tired because I accidentally fell asleep during part of the race. But, like, seeing that, like, I was almost crying. Like, just how emotional that he was. And, like, the entire weekend, just seeing that crowd reaction to him. And we know that we get that, like, for home drivers. Like, it's always special for them. You see that extra crowd thing. But this wasn't just like it's the home driver. It's the first ever F1 driver who's been in F1 for a couple years now. And they're just now able to get that home race back. Like, that was just big kid with a big dream. Like, I got goosebumps too.
He actually he had to wear Pierre's t-shirt, a kid with a big dream.
So yeah, we need a Joe one of him and his little kid watching the race.
Yeah. Now it was funny because they show him getting out of the car, and I'm like, oh, like so emotional. And then they jump to Max, who's not doing anything special, like just walking. I'm like, no, Max, I love you, but please go back to Joe when you. And then he was crying when they went back to him. Like, it was adorable.
The one time Emmy doesn't want to see Max, we see Max.
Now I am a little disappointed of how people reacted on social media about it. Because some people were like, oh, like, why will they give him, like, a special spot? And it's like, people don't realize what it means for him to be there. Like, he's the first, yeah, like Vicki said, like, first Chinese driver. And I feel like he didn't have, like, all the money in the world to make it into F1. Like, maybe other drivers cool. So, I think that's pretty special. That was really nice.
And I think, what was it? They said that the tickets sold out within like 30 minutes for this race when it went up. They said something about that. And it's just, it shows just like kind of like the loyalty in that fan base that's there supporting him and is behind him, regardless of if he's in like the best car out there. Because he's not in the best car out there, but that doesn't matter because he's one of the 20 best drivers in the world and he gets to represent his country for them.
And this is his third year. So
I think so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But
Seems good.
It was, yeah, that was really, I love that they did that. But other than that, something that I saw this morning on Twitter, you know, right at the very end, like the last curve that Max went off a little, like not off the track, but he slid a little. He did that on purpose. I didn't go back to listen to the radio, but apparently someone asked him in an interview, like, you slide a little, like, at the very end. Kind of like, maybe they were trying to be like, what happened there? And Max said, like, oh, yeah, I did it on purpose. I even told over the radio to GP, like, look at my own board. Because he was like, F1 cars done, what's the word they done? Drift. And so he did that. So he actually did it on purpose. And I was like, because he was already complaining about a possible puncture. So I'm like, this is not the time to go off the track on the literally few meters from the checker flag, but it's just...
I think I'd said was that Maria's corner that he picked up the puncture at? But
because it was that one that he was thinking, because that's where, you know, that incident that we're not going to talk about again because Vicki feels very strongly about it. But see, that corner's difficult.
I love how we were like Maria's Corner the whole time. Like now it's Maria's
really
Corner. Like,
It is Maria's Corner. We're going to rename it. We're going to petition the FIA and the Shanghai International Circuit to rename it Maria's Corner.
please.
Difficult. But that's where Zhou is like overtaking a lot of the times.
Okay.
Yeah. And something else was Lewis. Okay, so he qualified P18, but he ended up finishing P9, or was it P8? I think it was P8.
P9.
Okay, yeah. Honestly, I feel happy for him. I feel like that was a good drive. I don't remember watching any interviews with him after the race. I would be proud with that, though.
I don't even remember anything after the race.
I saw something this morning. I don't know if it was after the race or after the sprint, but you could tell it's like, yeah, like he was okay with what had happened, but he was more disappointed that he'd had to do that. Like that he was in the position where like that was what all that he could accomplish was like that comeback instead of being able to like fight like he had during the sprint.
Yeah. I just remember seeing Toto's face when they panned to him, and he was not happy with him in P18. But it is what it is.
For speaking of spins again, Fernando had a little meow touch with the grass, and he saved that very well.
Yeah.
Which, you know, is the go. It's Fernando Alonso.
Yep.
That's what he does. And it helps prove a lot of people, there's a lot of talk online, positive and negative about everyone, but he's the oldest driver on the grid. And that kind of just proves that he still has those reaction times. Like he's not losing that kind of thing by getting older. He still can prove himself. He can still do what he needs to do to be that F1 driver that he deserves to be there.
Yeah.
I know it's probably impossible, but I feel like I would love to see Fernando back in a Red Bull, just to say like a top team, because I would love to see how he will do having a car that gives him like everything he needs. I know he probably will never go to Red Bull if Max is there, because I feel like they are so similar that might not be, but I don't know if that's something he maybe just doesn't care about. But I know, and everyone knows that how big of a fan of Max I am, but I would say that if they were in the same car, I don't know, I'm not gonna say like his will be like way superior, but like he will be up there with Max winning, kind of similar to what we have with like maybe Lewis and Valtteri, that he was like doing really good in winning races. I feel like that would be Fernando, but I don't know, it's just a little frustrating.
How Max was with Danny before Danny went to Renault, how they were always against each other, competing with each other, going back and forth between them. Instead of it being like one supporting the other, it was one fighting the other.
Yeah, that's what I feel like it will be like. Yeah. But it's a little frustrating to think that we might not get to see Fernando in a top team, even though I feel like everyone knows how good of a driver he is. I mean, he's driving an Aston Martin and finishing like P3 qualifying up there. But I don't know. I just would love to see him back. And I feel like if he had a good car, he could possibly go for a third championship. This might be a little like, but he has.
Well, I fully agree with that. With what he's doing with that Aston Martin, that shouldn't be done with that Aston Martin. If he's in a Red Bull, if he's in a Ferrari, if he's in a McLaren, if he's in a car that can give, because he is up here, but his car is not. So if he's in a car that matches him even a little bit, he's up there. And he had so many opportunities to win his third championship. Like it was points. It was barely missing out on it to people like Seb. But I lost my train of thought. I got distracted. That he's up there. He can do it, and he can still do it. I fully believe that.
We saw that last year.
Aston Martin.
He did so great in Aston Martin with the Aston Martin at the beginning of the season. So that for me tells me, that he's and I know that, but like he still has it, and I don't know. Will be nice, but
it's nice to be reminded of it.
Yeah. But now he's signing to 2026, the end of 2026. So I was really, I don't know if it's only me, but I really thought he was a good option for the Mercedes seat, which at this point, I'm not going to say it's that much better than Aston Martin due to how they're been performing, but I feel like it is a step up. Yeah, I would love to see him at least win a race. I feel like that will be really special. Because I don't remember seeing it myself that Fernando won a race, and I don't know. But I'm trying to think what else happened this weekend.
Well, we had some more penalties. Danny got a penalty, and Logan got a penalty.
Justice for Logie Bear. I'm so done with this.
Justice for Logie Bear.
That was so undeserved. Like, I get it, but that was so harsh. 10 seconds? That was like too much. I feel like
everyone's just out to get him at this point.
Yeah. I wish they gave him better opportunities. Not saying that he gets thrown at like the worst, but he doesn't have the easy one. Yeah. It's just very unlucky.
He was coming out of the pits and he couldn't see where he was in regards to Kevin Magnussen, and Kevin Magnussen was barely ahead of him, and he overtook him because he didn't think that he was, and boom, penalty. And the 2 penalty points. He has 8 penalty points right now.
It's 10, right? That you need
12.
to
12.
No,
okay. He has 8 for the 12-month period. I don't know how many is the max.
But I think it's like 10 points that once you get to 10, you get banned from one race or something like that. I wonder in this kind of things, how much the team is like part of that mistake, like trying to help him, like, hey, you need to wait for this car to pass. Like, I don't know if it's something they told him and he just didn't see Kevin. Like, I just wonder how much of like part of the, like, you know, the responsibility of that is like on the team.
It's both. Like, but in the position where you can't see, like, they have to tell him. I don't know if they did, and he was trying to try to give it back later. I didn't get in any of that, but it was, very unfortunate.
Yeah. Majority of the time, it's the lack of communication between engineer and driver.
Like Charles's 3-place grid drop in Monaco last year, because they didn't tell him about he was going through the tunnel, and didn't say that he impeded someone accidentally because they didn't tell him that someone was on a fast lap. Like, it's so unfortunate that they're not getting that communication.
And even this season, like, it might not be F1, but with Dorian and them not telling her, like, hey, you already won, like, you know, like, she goes and does another lap because of miscommunication. Like, how are they missing out on things that are that important? Like, that's what I don't understand.
This is kind of off topic, but we have our F1 fantasy results. Your dog is so cute.
Oh, no.
So, after this race, we have Vicki with 655 points for her Papaya Boy team. Then, Emmy, you have 918.
What?
Yeah. I have 1,088.
Dang.
So, wait.
Fighting for people.
Using power-ups? Is there fighting?
No.
I told Vicki, because she told me, like, hey, did you look at your team? And I'm like, you know what? I'm doing the way that I set it up. I put whatever I put at the beginning of the season. That's what I'm letting it be. Like, I'm not changing it. I'm just letting it be. Hey, it's working. I'm P2, okay? It's working.
Well, Vicki did the same thing, and look at her score.
Hold on. I think I changed something. What did I change? Oh, I think I put my DRS boost on Lando, and that's what I changed. And that was it.
I've only used...
And I put Joe in. So far. It's its own race. I had to.
Yeah. I had Valtteri in there at first, and then I took him out, and I put Joe in, and I'm glad I did.
I don't even remember who I have in there. I know Max, but Other than that, I don't know.
You know, man.
Max stays on mine too. He has the 2 times points.
Oh, of course. I mean, it's the
He's on
easy way to
my
go.
number 1 team with the DRS boost. Just saying. He's not on my one for our league because I had to use that team on something. And I picked ours for dumb reason.
I have to.
Well, I needed to use it for something. I couldn't just have a team that I wasn't putting in any league at all whatsoever. But I wish I could change it.
You can.
Can I really?
You can make 3 free changes.
No, change the team that I have in my league. I'm not going to completely flip around. I just want to put a different team in.
I don't think you can.
I don't think so either.
You can only change drivers.
No.
People. What, I mean?
You can only change drivers, like not the team. Is that the issue?
You can change your drivers and constructors, but you can't change your actual team.
Yeah, I can't. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I know what you mean now.
I can leave the league and then rejoin.
Can you rejoin?
No, I'm not going to do that.
Different team? Oh.
Probably, but then I probably wouldn't have anything from the prior races, so it wouldn't do anything. So I just have to use all of my swaps to slowly change my team around.
By the end of the season, she's like, yeah, I changed it, and it's the end.
It's going to be terrible. Well, okay, so let's speak about the teams, because I put my DRS boost on Lando, because it was on Oscar, and I switched it to Lando. And do you guys remember them saying that McLaren was not going to be good in China, and that Lando Norris sneaks in and gets second?
Yes.
Like they're not going to be good, and then they did good all weekend. You were going to betray him?
I know. But
God.
Fake fan.
I have him in there, see?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
I switch him out with Ferrari. Because it's like a toss-up for all of them. Because I was talking to a friend about this. With the F1 fantasy, you have the high-cost people and the low-cost. There's literally no in-between. It jumps so high in between the low and the high teams. And some of the drivers don't even need to be that expensive, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't like that. If you want, you either have like a mid to low team, or you have your one person that you're counting on for everything, and then the other people that you can afford. Yeah. Which, sucked for everyone in wherever it was. I don't know races, apparently. Australia? Yeah, Australia. Yeah, that's when he DNF'd, right?
More details?
Next?
Yeah, he DNF'd. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Was it Australia?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that race where you sat at.
Australia, that Carlos
What race did you give
won.
up on?
Is he a joke to you again? That Carlos won?
Sorry that I forget about Carlos.
Yeah, it was Australia that he didn't. Now, Max, and this is something I think Vicki can help me with because I'm not sure of this one, but he broke a record. He passed someone on like the 5 poles.
It was 5 poles from the beginning of the season, the first 5, and it was the most recent ones were Seb and Lewis, Seb Counter, who had gotten 4 consecutive, and I think the last one was like 1991, I think is what it said. The last time there was like 5 consecutive poles from the beginning of the season. So, Milk and Max getting those records.
Nice.
I'm like I keep hearing all the little stat things. I'm like, I have to pay attention. I have to remember it. But do I know what happened in the race? No. Even though I watched it like twice. I'm going to watch it for a 3rd time. But
It'd be like that sometimes.
I'm glad that the races are over for now, that we have to wake up in the middle of the night until Vegas. Because 3 weekends in a row, I was so done. Like, I don't think if we had if next race was the same, I don't think I will stay up for it, because I'm like, I miss sleeping during the weekends, It's my time off. I'm like,
Emmy and I were about to sleep, and she asked, do we have any more races that are like this until Vegas? And I'm like half asleep clicking through every race that I've added to my calendar. And I'm like 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., midnight, Vegas. Okay, that's it. We're in the clear. They were all right now. And it was just weekend after weekend after weekend. And that was the exhausting thing. And there were so many races. Okay, there were 3 different series I was following this weekend. But F1 race this weekend, IndyCar race this weekend, and then the second WEC race was this weekend. So that one was a 6-hour race this morning. So I don't like that I like all the motorsport. I mean, I love that I like all the motorsports. My body doesn't like the fact that I neglect it for sleep. But
for Miami, the race is going to be at 1 a.m. for me, and sprint qualifying is going to be at 1:30 for me.
1 a.m.
1 a.m. for Miami? That you were just 3 hours behind?
I was like, where are you going? You're going to China and you didn't tell us?
Oh, I was looking at P1 and Sprint. That one, those had AM. The others are PM. Just kidding.
I was like, Ms. Man,
1 in the morning.
Those are our time zones. I'm not going to be there at 1 in the morning, so I don't know why you are.
That means I have to put a time block from 9:30 to 10:30, so I don't have any meetings.
It's okay. I'll be there, so I won't have any meetings.
That's going to be so much fun. You'll have to take all the pictures, all the videos, give us all the live updates.
I'm so excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm meeting up with some pretty great people, and then Emmy will be there on Saturday as well. So
I think we need to mention here that we're going to be there. I mean, Vicki, at least Vicky's going to be there all 3 days. Anyone listening who wants a sticker or a bracelet or whatever, we're going to be just giving them out. So, or selling them for $5. No, I'm just kidding. But like, no, we're just giving them out. But I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited to.
It's going to be flipped around, but I don't care. Cute little sticker.
So this is your PSA to find Vicki and yell, give me the tire sticker.
We also, please, no one come up to me.
We're probably, at least Vicky's gonna have the flag for the podcast, and I'm gonna be wearing that shirt that looks like a popsicle. So those are our references.
Well, at COTA last year, I was wearing that giant Williams Duracell foam battery F1 car cowboy hat, and I'm taking it with me. I don't know if I'll wear it, but I'm taking it with me. So gotta support Logie Bear.
Yeah, she was making me feel bad about me not wearing it, but I don't think for one day I want to wear that thing that's so tight on my head. Maybe.
Get a smaller head.
I mean, I think I'm just going to wear the Red Bull, the Miami hat. I'm excited.
That's on brand.
I'm really excited because I feel like I made that decision last minute, so I don't have to wait for a million years until the race. It's like 2 weeks and we're going to be there. So exciting.
Like the race will be over in 2 weeks. Like it will have happened by now as time of recording. So
yeah.
But if we jump back to McLaren real quick before we end for today, Oscar said that they have upgrades coming in Miami and they were not expecting to do well in China and they did very well. So I don't know what they're going to do to that car, but yeah, fingers crossed Oscar gets his first Grand Prix win in Miami. Fingers crossed Oscar gets his first Grand Prix win in Miami. I said
you already crossed your fingers, Maria. So
and
I'm
intrigued. For Oscar, yes.
Just for that, I'm gonna take this.
Wow, rude.
I'm gonna keep this one on. Lando. Lando will get
I thought you say the people who are DNFing the ones that you were wearing bracelets. Oh, wow. Off, right? So
you're cursing Lando.
No.
No.
That was before. I already took everyone else on. Papaya.
But I hope that it's a Silverstone last year situation where they just like do their thing. I don't know. I want to see someone put it up to max again in the way that Lando did like the second half of the season last year. I want it to be Oscar, but I want it to happen. Lando. I actually want it to be Charles, but it can be Oscar. I'll settle for Oscar. I love them both, but that's all that I have left to say. Does anyone else have anything they want to talk about before we end up?
Super excited for Miami. I'm excited to hear your adventures, Vicki, whenever you get back. And,
she doesn't want to hear mine.
You go on Saturday. Oh, just
wow. Rude.
I think she might have muted me then. Because I was literally in the process saying, and Abby,
sure,
Wednesday that she's going to be there.
Maria's been saying some very controversial things today, including not being a Taylor Swift fan, which hurt my feelings significantly.
I was there.
Okay, what was said before the recording doesn't leave the before the recording.
Are you sure?
If it makes you feel better, Maria, I'm going to bring it up again that Emmy forgot that I existed this weekend, even though I was sleeping on her floor, like 2 feet away from her. She forgot that I was there and almost went back to sleep, and we almost didn't watch the race because I was counting on her to wake me up. So
Emmy didn't even give you a blanket. It was literally a towel, right?
It was the floor.
Yeah. It was a hand towel as well, straight on the floor.
Hand towel, yeah.
Yeah.
Worst hostess.
Yeah.
Like, after we're done recording, I got to go to the hospital and see if I got frostbite on my toes because, like, ice cold.
Yeah, because fun fact, I do like my place to be really cold, so.
It was chilly. It was chilly. 63 degrees.
63? Are you being for real?
63. I'm being for real.
75.
I had my AC on, okay?
At 63 degrees.
Well, duly noted. Whenever I visit, I'll bring...
I told her you can turn it off if you're cold, okay? So...
I'm a guest in your home. I can't change things.
Thank you for joining us today. You can find us on Instagram and YouTube at Cool Down Vroom Pod. That's Vroom with 3 O's. And on Twitter, also known as X, as Cool Down Vroom. If you liked the episode and want to hear more, please leave us a review, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Justice for Danny Rick. Justice for Danny Rick. And justice for Logie Bear always.